Overwhelm is the silent killer of productivity and success. Here's how to break free from it. In this video, we're going to tackle overwhelm for busy people, for entrepreneurs and business owners, and discuss how to regain control. I recently went to a workshop hosted by Harvard School of Public Health on the neuroscience of resiliency, so I'm going to make sure to be weaving in all of those insights into this video. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button down below, and let's get into it. If you are an entrepreneur or if you're just a busybody person, you know what it means to be overwhelmed. It's an endless amount of decisions you have to make, endless to-do lists, sticky notes all over the place, meetings galore, and all of this makes you feel just really stressed out. The first thing is you're not the only one, you're not alone. Studies show that up to 60% of small business owners report feeling absolutely overwhelmed. So the question is, why do so many people find themselves in this position? Because we can't really get ourselves out of something unless we know why and how we found ourselves in it in the first place. The most typical culprits of feeling overwhelmed in business are usually poor time management, a lack of focus, poor communication, and not having enough help. I'm sure as I said those things, you were like, yep. Or maybe just one or two apply to you, but ultimately recognizing what factors are leading to your overwhelm is the only way that we're going to get ourselves out of this situation. So one of the things that we talked about through the workshop through Harvard is that how stress is actually normal and we actually don't want to completely eliminate it from our life. It is just a natural response, your body's natural response to being up against a challenge or a demand. And there are benefits to stress. It can send adrenaline pumping our way in a time when we really need it, which I'm sure you guys have heard people say, like, I do best when my back's up against the wall. That's when I'm able to just really focus and get things done. What they're probably referencing is the adrenaline that comes with stress and knowing that there's a really close looming deadline. The stress response that your body goes through when feeling overwhelmed isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It can help you carry through or push through to get you over the finish line and get things done. Obviously, where we don't want to be is in a constant state of stress. This is just not a good place for our mind and body to be in, and I don't have to explain to you guys the impact that it can have on your life and on your business. So let's get into real practical ways to manage being overwhelmed. One of the most important things is to prioritize what truly matters. And here's the thing, guys, you think that as adults we're all just logical thinkers, we can figure out what's important to us and what's not important to us, but I talk about all the time on this channel how I see it when I work with entrepreneurs, how very logical, smart people completely fail to realize what are the really important things that they should be working on and what they should be dedicating their time and energy to. And I'm sure if we really think about it, we can all think of at least one example of a person in our personal life who's constantly stressed, constantly huffing and puffing. And it's not actually because their life is necessarily more stressful than your life, than my life, but it's because they don't seem to have a sense of prioritization for what is the most important thing that they need to do. I'm telling you guys straight up, one of the most unproductive ways to approach your business and to approach the tasks that you need to do on a daily basis is by treating everything equally. It's a completely inefficient way to deal with your day-to-day work. Ultimately, there are always tasks that are more important than others. Not everything drives forward your business. Not everything improves your customer experience. Not everything makes you more money and puts more money in your pocket. And I find this is something that completely overwhelms solopreneurs, so people who are the only person in their business or people who have a very small team of maybe 2 or 3 people. You have to differentiate between what matters and what doesn't matter. Or I shouldn't say doesn't matter, but what things can be left till later and don't really contribute to things actually being on fire. If this is something you guys want to work through, I've created a resource down below in the description box. It's completely free and it'll help you walk through prioritizing what matters the most in your business. Another aspect is setting clear boundaries, and this is something that's really important when you're a service-based business owner. If you're anything like me, you actually care about your clients and you want them to get the best outcome possible when they work with you. Sometimes, however, this can lead to some blurry boundaries, which can obviously add additional stress and cause us to be overwhelmed. And it's not as simple as just learn to say no. Like, I feel like that's so generic, and if it was that easy, we would all be doing it. But one of the things that helps you be able to set boundaries and to actually be able to say no is when you have clear processes and ways of working. Because then in the moment, you're not viewing this as having to, reject some form of outreach from your client or reject a suggestion from them. Instead, all you're doing is redirecting conditioning them to the way in which you operate. So for example, if somebody is texting you and calling you, you can just redirect them to the process you have when it comes to that communication. And you can say something like, great, would love to talk about this more. Here's my booking link. Make sure to throw it on my calendar. So I really think having good, strong processes actually is what allows you to be less overwhelmed, because it allows you to create boundaries and it allows you to default to the best way of doing work instead of constantly doing ad hoc things all the time, which is the position you might find yourself in right now. I also want to touch on communication, because I feel like when I say communication, people think about the communication that they have with their employees or with their contractors, but I actually first just want to touch on the communication you have with yourself. We are constantly having conversations with ourselves. We have our own internal dialogues that are happening all day long. So if you've ever just felt like my mind is racing, it's because you have so many things on your to-do list and you are constantly communicating that to-do list to yourself. I have to do this, I have to do that. It can lead to a lot of overwhelm and stress. One of the most important things you can do for yourself is actually reduce this back and forth that you need to have in your own mind. And I always say that the best way to do that is by having a clear plan laid out and a clear action list ahead of you. I've worked with so many entrepreneurs to develop 90-day action plans, and the most beneficial part of that action plan for them is it completely relieves a mental load. They don't have to think, what should I be doing next? How should I do it? No, it's all laid out for you. And that reduces this daily mental conversation, this internal dialogue that you need to have with yourself that honestly takes up a lot of energy and can be an additional stressor on your body when it doesn't have to be. There are already a lot of things that you actually have to get up and do. Why do you also want to double the stress by just thinking about those things all day long as well? So when it comes to the role that communication can have on stress, I want you to think about it in that unconventional, out of the box way, and first think about the communication that's occurring within yourself and not just with parties around you. Remember, you're not going to gain control overnight, and a lot of the times the things that help you gain that control are a process and are something that you actually need to dedicate and carve out time to doing. So for example, I've done a whole video about virtual assistants because a lot of the times people who are at a breaking point, completely feeling overwhelmed, completely feeling stressed, feel like just hiring a virtual assistant is going to solve all of their problems. And in that video, I talk about how that really might not be the case. And I reference examples of people that I know in my own personal life, successful entrepreneurs who have hired and fired so many people who they were bringing into their business to support them, because ultimately bringing somebody else into your business really highlights and really shows the cracks when it comes to a lot of the initial things that we talked about leave you feeling overwhelmed. Poor communication, poor time management, lack of focus. If these things are already the default, the norm, don't think that just bringing in external support is what's going to allow you to magically fix your business overnight, because that probably won't be the case. So when it comes to support, again, we need to think outside of the box, guys. Outside of this idea of support just being a physical person who's doing things for you, support can look like having the right tools in place. For example, I was working with one of my mentees. He is a local business owner who has a baking business, and one of the things that I showed him is that he really needed the right tools in his business. He's an expert baker, he's so good at what he does, his business is expanding rapidly, but he could not continue to operate the way that he was day one. In some cases, he was able to tap into already existing tools. For example, QuickBooks, setting it up, really knowing how it works, having a consulting friend who was supporting him in doing his accounting. But I also worked with him to build tools from scratch, because I was just like, look, you need to be able to reduce the amount of daily overwhelm and daily decision making. So I helped him build some tools that would allow him to do that. Instead of having a new client and thinking, what should I charge? What are my costs? All of that. We built everything from scratch for him. So once you guys have worked through the resources that I provided for you in the description box, where you're able to prioritize the most important tasks, those revenue generating tasks, then what you should be doing is saying, okay, what can I use to automate or get these tasks done more quickly? I guarantee you, for most people, there will be some sort of out of the box subscription service that can really help you. And paying $50 a month, $150 a month, whatever business expense amount that it is, it's definitely going to be worth it. However, there are going to be some things that as you think about them and the best way to do them, you might have to build tools yourself or look to somebody else to build tools for you. But all of that to say, you should be thinking about how to build structure in your business, how to build systems, and where to automate, because all of these things are what helps you buy back your time. And that lack of time is what's making you feel completely overwhelmed and completely stressed, because you feel like your to-do list doesn't match the amount of time that you have in a day to get things done. Drop a comment down below and let me know what what is making you feel the most stressed out, what is making you feel the most overwhelmed. Make sure you guys like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.